PFPod, the podcast where we break down the action, strategy, and excitement of robotics competitions like FIRST and beyond.
From last-minute pit fixes to championship-winning plays, we're here to talk about what makes robotics more than just a competition. Whether you're a builder, coder, or just love the energy of a great event, we've got stories, insights, and maybe a few battle scars to share.
So let's gear up, dive in, and talk about the world of competitive robotics. Except for the fact that today we're not really talking about robotics that much. Yes, but not really.
Yeah, so the main focus of today's episode is to talk about transitioning from high school to college in terms of getting ready from the different kind of academic setting and also how you can stay involved in FIRST.
Yeah, so it's a little bit weird to talk about this when my transition from college to the real world is happening in about 4 weeks. But
That's a bummer.
Yep. Okay, so looking back at kind of my transition, we can talk a little bit about each of our experiences. I went to school in Indiana, just west of Indianapolis, I know, and currently go, obviously, to Purdue. So didn't move too far away from home, but the transition was still a little bit rough for me in terms of a couple of different things. I don't know, Max, how about you? Where'd you come from? Where'd you go?
Luckily, I did not go to school in Indiana. Virginia, outside D.C., home, East Coast, Best Coast. Anyways, then I came out to Purdue, just like Sam. Here we are, together, at same school. Crazy how that worked out. Anyways, I thought the transition to college was definitely, not necessarily difficult, but it was very different in terms of lifestyle. You have a lot more unstructured time while still having lots of different tasks you have to accomplish. And that's kind of, you have to set your own boundaries and schedule to balance this academic and social and all your different kind of priorities.
Yeah, so I think the thing that's super interesting about transitioning to college, and I think something we can talk about for a little bit, is going from, I think especially a lot of us as FIRST students, go from having a schedule where you're at school from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., and then you go to your other activity that's not robotics until 6 p.m., and then all your mentors get off work and you go to robotics and you're at robotics until 10 p.m., and then you go home and you do your homework and you go to bed and you wake up and you do it again the next day. And everything is very structured. Everything happens the same every single day. Your friends that you do stuff with, at least for me, I was a huge nerd in high school, so I did marching band and I did robotics. I know, guys. And so the overlap between band kids and robotics kids was large, if you believe it. So I spent all day, every day, in my honors classes, in the marching band, in the robotics team, with the exact same people for 14 hours a day. I saw them more than anybody else.
Yeah, I didn't quite have that situation. That could have happened to you.
So with that in mind, I basically spent 14 to 16 hours a day with the same people every single day. Obviously, those people are my best friends. I'm very grateful for them. Shout out Drew and Logan. But it is weird to then go to college with that experience.
Yeah, and especially depends, I guess, on what size school you go to. Some schools definitely have that kind of small community. But if you do end up going to
my graduating class was 800 people. I did not have a small high school.
And that's about colleges.
Oh, okay.
Because they're whatever. But anyways, if you go to a smaller university or college, it's definitely kind of similar vibe to that of high school. But if you go to a larger school, which are a lot of them,
right,
finding your community within that school to make that big place feel small is definitely really important early on. Yes. Whether you're in your major, you can find different people and friends, or you find different clubs like Purdue FIRST Programs.
Purdue FIRST Programs, yeah.
But yeah, finding your community is definitely really important, I would say. And however you want to do that, up to you.
I think community comes naturally when you're in high school, just by being involved in activities, going to class, stuff like that. You're kind of forced to find community. And I think in college, with the flexibility of your schedule, it's the first time that I had to make a lot of effort to find people that were interested in similar things to me, wanted to do the same things socially that I did, and just were passionate about the same stuff. I think that's why I love being a part of student organizations, and that's been such a big part of my college career.
But there's a lot of other things that go into college other than just your social life, and kind of balancing all the things is definitely really challenging. So when I actually first came to school, a mentor kind of did a fun activity with me where we actually inflated a bunch of different balloons, and we had to write down different parts that we had to kind of accomplish in our days, different tasks and things like that. And we threw them all up, and we realized we couldn't catch every balloon. There's only so much time in your day, and you have more things that you want to do, whether it's sleep, work out, study, hang out with friends. improve yourself just in self-work and stuff like that. So kind of being able to balance and juggle all those different things is definitely really a challenge, I think. And how you want to go about prioritizing your day-to-day schedule, I think, is really important. And then kind of figuring out what works for you is something you really got to work on early on, I think. Like determining how you want to go about studying, how you want to go about setting up your homework schedule, how you want to actually set up your class schedule. That's very different than high school.
Yes.
You have a lot more flexibility in if you want to have back-to-back classes from 8:30 a.m. to noon and have the afternoons off, or if you want to sleep in more and have more classes in the afternoon, or if you want to have a gap and have like hours in between just so you can do a little work in between. So kind of how you want to set up your schedule and set up your life, you have a lot more control over, I guess.
Yes.
I guess there's no other point in your life, whether it's pre-college and high school or post-college and work, where you'll have as much flexibility as you do now. So being able to kind of find what works for you in those first semester so you can build up success for the rest of your time is really important, I would say.
And I think another thing with that is I think pre-college, I don't know 100% your experience, but at least for me, my family was really supportive of me and everything that I did. So like I was used to, waking up in the morning and having my mom help me like get ready for school, make sure everything's ready to go. I come home, like there's dinner on the table because I've been doing activities for 6 hours. You go to college and you don't have a parent to make you dinner anymore. You don't have like the lack of responsibility of like everything else outside of what you're doing is your parents' responsibility to take care of for you. All of a sudden, like you making sure that you live as a human being is on you. And that was something I struggled with a lot, was prioritizing things that were not my activities or my academics. I realized that I didn't sleep as much as I should. I didn't make time to eat meals and don't do that. A lot of that led to a lot of problems throughout like my first couple of years in college, where I just wasn't prioritizing keeping me as a human being happy. And I think something that I see a lot of first students run into is they want to be so involved. They want to make an impact. They want to be the people that when they leave their, whether it's Purdue or another university, they want to leave an impact. And I think it's important to remind yourself that you also need to leave time for you.
Yeah, so my first semester of college, I jumped in and joined a bunch of different student orgs. It was probably my lightest semester academically because you're really just taking entry-level classes, regardless of even AP credits and stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing too crazy right away. So I had a lot more free time than I do now, and I joined a lot more clubs. And I just like eventually had to kind of fizzle out and realize I can't spend all this time doing all these different things. And I had to kind of cut some of these things out of my life, which is definitely hard decisions to make, what activities I actually want to continue pursuing through the rest of college.
Yes.
And kind of now that I look back on that, I don't necessarily have regrets, but I think I would definitely recommend not to overextend yourself early on, because it could definitely lead to making some hard decisions afterwards.
Yeah, and I also think with that, the way that I like to tell people to do it, and I do like this rule too, of you have one club that you do for fun, one club that you do as like a professional thing, and then another club that you do for like community service or something that you're passionate about. I think PFP kind of fills all three of those buckets for me, but I'm involved largely in I think 4 different student organizations, really trying to follow that rule of like they all benefit me in a different way. And like if something's filling the same bucket for you, maybe you can drop one of those things if you're not super passionate.
No, for sure. And I guess kind of how you go about keeping track of all these different things. I'm super regimented in keeping my calendar and keeping my reminders and to-do lists of like different assignments. But I know other people like Gabe Howard, our lovely treasurer.
I knew he was gonna get brought up here.
Gabe's strategy for organizing his day-to-day life is the G-Cal, which is not a Google Calendar.
Not the Google Calendar.
It is the Gabe Calendar, just in his dome. And that sometimes doesn't work out great for him, I'd say.
So we'll be in a meeting, and the meeting will run 10 minutes over, and our classes start at 30. So a lot of our meetings throughout the week run like 11:30 to 12:20. Like it'll end at the 20 so that people can transition to where they need to be at the 30. 12:30 will roll around. Gabe goes, "Well, I only have lab every other week in this class, so I don't think I have lab today." And then he's like, "Sprint, don't have a G-Cal. Have a real G-Cal, a real Google Calendar. This is my Google Calendar." I use it religiously. It's color-coded, has a different color for every single club, classes, student orgs. Keeps me very organized, makes sure I know what's going on. I think if you don't have a calendar in college, you're kind of like, it's my biggest thing that leads to my success, I think.
No, for sure. And also at the beginning of each semester, all your professors drop their syllabuses with a lot of your assignments for the entire 16 weeks. And I go ahead and write down every assignment in my calendar, so now I get reminders and to-do lists on my phone when I actually have to do different assignments, so I don't end up kind of getting anything lost in the tracks.
Yeah, I've done it a few different ways throughout college. I've had a couple semesters, like my more intense semesters, where I exported all my syllabuses into like an Excel spreadsheet and copied every single assignment, its due date, and then is it done, is it not done. And then for the entire semester, I sorted it by uncompleted, descending. And so every single time I finished something, it would check off and remove it from the list. That was a good way to keep track of like really intense semesters. This semester, I'm a second semester senior. Honestly, I like your classes aren't as intense. Another good way to do it is Google To Do. You can make different lists for every single class. Then you check them off. They're on your calendar and you can check them off as you go. That's worked really well for me this semester too. So there's a lot of different ways to organize yourself.
The exact medium doesn't matter, but actually doing it is what I would definitely really encourage.
Yes.
And I guess kind of transitioning a bit from, I guess, organizational habits and just structure, let's talk a little bit more about kind of how you can stay involved with FIRST.
Yes.
I know you're kind of coming to an end of high school and you're like, oh my God, my time with robotics is like wrapping up. And that's nothing further from the truth.
I enjoy my time in FIRST post-grad more than I enjoyed it.
Well, so before we talk about getting involved with actual FIRST things, there are plenty of other robotics teams and car teams and orgs on campus at Purdue and also many other schools as well. If you want to kind of get that technical itch, there's definitely options there.
So many options.
But then in terms of actually staying involved with FIRST, I think the easiest way to get involved, especially your first year after, is volunteering. So whether you want to join a FIRST alumni group like PFP at your school, if they have them, that would be great. They definitely help you set volunteer. But if that's not necessarily an option, there's also, you could just look up on the FIRST schedule and find local competitions and sign up to volunteer. Do some more casual roles like field reset or queuing or stuff like that, and kind of just get that backside impact of an actual FIRST event.
Yeah, I think also don't be deterred from like your major not being technical and still wanting to stay involved in technical stuff. Like I'm in industrial engineering, which is not as technical as like a mechanical or an electrical engineer. And I've had some conversations with some people where they're like, I really want to do IE, but I want to still do robotics, and I don't think I can do both. And that could not be further from the truth. If you are passionate about technical stuff and machining and building robots and continuing to do that, you can do that regardless of what you study in college. You do not have to be a mechanical engineer or an electrical engineer or one of your super technical majors to build robots continuously. And I think that's something that I see pitfall a lot of people is they're like, I just don't think I can stay involved with what I'm studying. Not true. Stay involved. Find a robot you're passionate about too. There's a lot of different clubs. Some of my friends want to explore racing, and I know Purdue has Grand Prix, which is if you're familiar with Indiana at all in the Indy 500 and Indy cars. Purdue does a mini version of that at our school. It's a big week at the university where we celebrate like a lot of engineering accomplishments. We have the race. It's a pretty fun day, and just more like there's underwater robots, there's battle bots, there's so many with
a lot of my friends from my first team, they're doing Formula SAE. Pretty much every major engineering school has a team, and they kind of compete all together in a similar fashion at first, but very common. I know a lot of people end up going into that kind of route as well. Yeah,
I think, again, like just to repeat what I just said, there's so many types of robotics.
Yeah, but find your niche and just stick with it, I guess.
Yeah, so just continue to stay involved technically. And then from a FIRST perspective, I think we both could go on about that for forever. Let's talk a little bit about our transition into college with PFP and why that's become such an important part of our college experience.
For sure. I mean, I know FIRST was such a meaningful aspect to my high school period and to kind of develop me into my interest in STEM. So I knew I wanted to kind of give back to that community once I got here. And obviously, Purdue FIRST Programs is a great medium and way to actually go about doing that. But you don't have to be part of like an alumni group like us to still have that impact. You can mentor or volunteer on your own by just reaching out to local teams or just signing up for events like competitions. But having that definitely support group as a group definitely makes things more fun. We get a carpool to events together. We kind of go as a group and makes it a much more kind of fun bonding experience, almost like you were at a team at a competition in high school.
Yeah, and I think also the cool thing about the FIRST community and something that this is going to sound really cheesy, but you hear it from a lot of adults. FIRST, I think, also built my morals in a way of, like, I think the core values and gracious professionalism and the way that I hold myself when I do something technical or I do something in a team or I do something competitively. A lot of the way that I hold myself was built through FIRST. And I think by joining and staying involved in FIRST, you get to stay involved with people. I think that I like to think that a lot of people that do FIRST have really great morals because of what they learn in the program. And I think a lot of people in PFP, I think I stayed around because the people in PFP are good people. And I love surrounding myself with people that, like, continue to lift me up, continue to use, like, GP and, you know, our 6 core values and continue to hold those close to them. And I think in college you can often fall into the pitfall of surrounding yourself with people that may not be the best for you or expand your character in a way that's, like, not wonderful. And you know, you hear those, like, horror stories. I think I'm grateful because PFP has, like, helped me avoid all of that. I don't know about you, but for me that's been a huge thing.
Yeah, I definitely think being a part of the FIRST community is definitely just a great way. I love volunteering, not necessarily for FIRST, but just in general, just giving back to the community.
Yes.
I try to do that throughout high school and kind of continue that into college, and it's just a really great way to kind of just stay involved and give back to help kind of facilitate that next generation of STEM students.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, it's just been huge for me to continue to, like, have conversations with people that are meaningful and expand my character.
Yeah, I also really love being able to network within the FIRST community.
Yes.
Being able to talk kind of more of the mentor side of things instead of, like, more students. There's so many great people involved in lots of different industries and careers. I've learned so much just about, like, different areas and kind of actually finding out where I actually want to kind of go into my career-wise by just talking to different people who have that experience, who are also FIRST mentors, and just kind of just talking to them at events and stuff like that. It's really great as well.
Yeah, a lot of my friends want to get back into mentoring, and I think my recommendation with the college transition is to not get back into mentoring, like, immediately once you graduate. I think a lot of people get burnt out of FIRST really quickly. I think we're all so passionate about what we do in this organization. We spend so much time. You're allowed to give yourself a break. And I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, and I would like to say, like, I think the caveat to that is I definitely would not go back and mentor your team from high school right away. But if you want to get maybe involved with, like, a Lego League team or an FTC team and something a little bit less of a commitment and kind of slowly work back towards mentoring at first year FTC, that's definitely a great option as well. And those Lego students definitely could use some adult supervision.
Yeah, I have had, so obviously Max and I have been way more involved in the events side of things, the logistics planning and getting PF people to competitions. The last year I picked up mentoring again and I did FLL. Those kids are amazing. First of all, they're geniuses. Like, they make me feel so stupid because I'm, like, 21 and I'm actually 22 and they, like, know way more than I do. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh. But also they say the most random things. I don't know if you've ever talked to an FLL student before. They'll be like, and here's how this encoder works on the robot, and here's a video of a unicorn throwing up, and it's like, but it's fun, and I think it's such a cool experience. So
yeah, for sure. And I guess if you weren't necessarily part of an alumni group like us, how could you potentially get mentoring? Are there ways you can, like, find teams online and reach out to them? Like, how would you suggest kind of going about doing that?
Yeah, so I think the cool thing about FIRST is it's such an international network. I know personally, like, again, going to talk about moving away after college, but for me, I'm moving to a totally different part of the country, and the way that I got involved was by looking up FIRST area of the country I'm moving to, and then contacting people that were on the list of people when it came up. It's seriously, like, FIRST is always looking for great people. FIRST is always looking for people to return. If you've gotten something out of the program, you can give something back to the program. And just reach out to people that are involved in your area. FIRST is a super easy network to look up, super easy way to look up teams on Blue Alliance, if that's how you want to go about getting involved. But yeah, like, honestly, like, just a simple Google search, I think, does the trick most of the time.
For sure. That's great advice, Sam. All right, so I think that covers a lot of kind of staying involved in that FIRST community and aspect. I think before we go out today, I think we should each give some major piece of advice that we would think transitioning into college and how you go about doing that we learned over our time and what they can kind of take from that.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm going to give, like, 2-ish. I think as somebody that was so involved in the FIRST community, and, like, I think Max and I are very similar people in that I also threw myself into a million student orgs and a million leadership positions and got really overwhelmed really quickly. I cannot emphasize enough to take time for yourself and how important it is to not only grow your impact, but to grow yourself as a human being while you're in college. Take time to sleep. Take time to hang out with your friends. You do not have to be busy doing something for somebody else every single weekend that you're in college. You are a human being, And college is the perfect time, I think, to find your individuality and who you are and your personality and how your morals are going to shape you for the rest of your life. Take time to figure that out. You do not have to be a busybody the whole time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I definitely kind of live in the philosophy of work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
Save time to hang out with your friends. Save time to get your 7 hours of sleep. Save time to go to the gym in the mornings. Kind of make sure you take those things into priority as well.
Balance is crucial. And I think we balance ourselves to be so busy to make that impact. You deserve to rest. College is a good time to take a little bit of a break sometimes.
Yeah, and I think my biggest takeaway and thing that I would like to encourage y'all to do is make sure you kind of diligently create your schedule and how you're going to spend your days. There's a lot of free time, and it's very easy just to scroll it away or just kind of do nothing productive. But if you're able to manage your time effectively and branch out your time, say, okay, I'm going to go to class from these hours, I'm going to do homework for these hours, I'm going to run my errands from this time, and like go to clubs at this, you'll have so much more free time where you can actually do and write and do whatever you want to do when you actually thoughtfully kind of plan out your schedule and how you're going to go about accomplishing all your things you need to do. And I guess another big takeaway I have is definitely savor your time here. The last 3 years, I mean, I know Sam's graduating even closer, but the last 3 years have flown by.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy to think that I have only one more year left of school and how the last 3 years have felt like that to me. So definitely really take advantage of savoring all the great memories, all your great friends, and enjoy it.
Yeah, as somebody that's not going to be a Purdue student anymore in a month, I'm going to miss it a lot. I think that I'm like, these 4 years, like, obviously don't peak in college, but these 4 years are going to be 4 years I look back on fondly forever.
Oh, also definitely go to events on campus, sporting
Yes.
events, different festivals, things like that. There'll always be things going on, and definitely take advantage of those.
So a lot of my favorite memories are from events like that. And keep your people close. Like, good friends in college are huge.
For sure. Definitely made some lifelong friends over the last few years.
Yeah, drop your stuff below in the PF portal, by the way, if you want to contribute to the PFPod at all or have any ideas of what you want to see from us next. Feel free.
And with that being said, PF parting is such be sorrow.
See you
y'all
guys next
time.
week.